Grog.
Hey guys, it's the Sideshow Podcast with me, Peter Fickling, and Matthew Weir. I'm afraid Keri is sick this week. We heard her, didn't we, Matthew, last night?
She was rivaling you for croakiness in terms of phoning in sick for the podcast.
Let's actually hear it. Let's hear the croakiness.
Hello. I've just realised it's our anniversary, isn't it? And I'm missing it. So I'm sad about that. Bloody hell. But yeah, looking forward to hearing the lads' version of the podcast this week. And sorry that COVID has taken me down. Bastard thing.
So, Matthew, who knew that Keri was Peggy Willie? Peggy Willie is Keri. What a shocker.
She's gone full method, hasn't she?
There's no faking that. That's proper ill, isn't it?
It was you a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? It's Keri now. I mean, I'm meant to be flying to England on Saturday. Everyone I know, either family and friends I'm planning to see and stay with, they've either got COVID or they're planning to get it next week.
COVID is very on trend at the moment. It's very fashionable.
Peter said to me off air, "You're definitely going to get it when you're over," which is a really nice, really, really nice promise.
I obviously, like, my mum's got it at the moment. She was anything that could put my mum in bed, you don't mess with. I mean, my mum is tough as nails. Hello, mum. And Ket Warbis is famously, made of the good stuff. She's a Chuck Yeager in a dress with a sausage roll. So yeah, I'm not trying to dismiss COVID, but I actually ended up being quite happy to get it in the end, because I think it's like hanging over me for 2 years. So finally, to get it out of the way, once I knew I was all right, and my family was all right, I was kind of quite sort of lent into it. But yeah, so I'm not wishing it upon you, but I mean, you might as well get it out of the way. And if you want to get it, England's a good place to come.
Yeah, so I hear. Keri said yesterday that she was even having trouble looking at screens. And I did also notice on a Reuters website that Pornhub stock had plummeted. I don't know if the two things are connected.
Oh, poor Keri. I mean, but if she has this reputation, she's only got herself to blame, I think. So,
Pork scratching porn is a pretty niche market, but
yeah,
the videos are out there if you look for them.
How are we going to segue from processed meat porn to the Archers?
How about Josh making a movie called Hen Heaven?
That was really weird, wasn't it? Like, Josh suddenly having this kind of tete-a-tete with Vince Casey. They played the long game on that plot. I think one of us, you or me, alluded to it a couple of weeks ago, that Vince had this kind of like avuncular chat with Josh on the roadside.
So I think Vince is slowly taking over everything, and it's all connected with Liz and David, Lizzie, Elizabeth. Jesus, so people get so funny about what you call her. Elizabeth, David, getting his claws into Freddie's business, if you can call Freddie's business a business, and getting his feet under the table with Josh. I think there's something going on there. Why is he cozying up to those two all of a sudden?
As anyone who has heard me talk about Vince before will know, I am extremely biased. So I'm going to try and put that down. I don't feel like it's malicious. It does feel like it's coming from a good place, but then there's always the earliest introduction of Vince as a character where we were warned these, uncompromising, tough, out for profit at all costs. So, and then also, if you look what they've done with some of the characters, who's a good example? Ruairi, who we'll talk about later. I mean, there's no reason to believe they can't just, turn Vince into a completely different character overnight. But yeah, I don't quite see the motivation, unless the one that I want, which is that he's a nice guy and he's looking out for some young people he admires. Well, not Freddie, obviously. There's a different incentive.
I just think it's possibly an attempt to spite David. I think it's a power play. I think it's a bit of a grab for these things around the village. Maybe it cements his position a little more, and it's innocent, like you say. But I mean, we got to find out that he's got a love of 80s music. Not entirely unbelievable, is it?
This is where we need Keri, because obviously, you and I were around in the 80s, but she was actually in the clubs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't appreciate his choice of songs. What was it? Spandau Ballet, Wham, and one other. I didn't think if I was trying to sell the 80s to another generation, those would not be the acts or songs I would pick.
You're channeling an ex of mine who was a few years my junior, who a little time ago we were passing a nightclub with a group of friends, and there was an 80s night, and she said, for some reason, Matthew would love that. He remembers the 80s. I was like, is that a diss?
It's a compliment.
Yeah, absolutely. What were his choices? So he liked Duran Duran because a mate of his went to school with Nick Rhodes.
Yeah, I misremembered that. Sorry, yeah.
And actually, funnily enough, the Specials got a shout out.
Yes.
And quite pertinent, because last week Keri was giving the Specials a shout out in Too Much Too Young.
Yeah.
When we were discussing ska music. So.
I didn't know a huge amount about the Specials until recently. I still don't know a huge amount, but I did enjoy them absolutely shooing UB40.
Yes.
For being, which so I never quite understood why everyone hated UB40 so much until I heard the Specials and a few other people from the reggae and ska scene talking about how they just couldn't get airplay, and UB40, were just waltzed onto air because they had, Ali Campbell up front. But yeah.
The reformation of the Specials was entirely funded by ex-Crystal Palace chairman Simon Jordan, who paid them X amount, millions, to get back together for his birthday. Simon Jordan is a twat, despite all of that.
You said in about 2 seconds what I could have said in about half an hour. We could have gone down there one hell of a big why I hate Simon Jordan hole.
Have you seen Eastbound and Down?
I have, yes.
The Will Ferrell character is Simon Jordan in that.
Yeah. To your point earlier, Matthew, I do think it is credible that Vince, is a bit of a muso. Like, it's I mean, we've talked before about how Ambridge is the home of class snobbery, and I do like the fact that Vince as a character has challenged that a few times. Like famously, his argument, the way that he teased Russ in the art gallery. But yeah, so I think it's nice that he's interested in the music, but it's not credible that that's his kind of main motivation. Like, because if he wanted to do a disco, look at me, 47 years old. If he wanted to do a club night, he would just pay someone to do it. Like, it's all, like you were saying, it's all about getting in with Freddie, currying favor, showing Lizzie that he's a good partner. And also, like you said earlier on, showing to David and the rest of the Archers family that he's more than just a guy who chops up animals for a living.
I like the way you ended with that last bit. I was like, okay, yeah. And in the end, it just pretty much makes him sound like a serial killer right in the end.
Well, that's the truth of it, isn't it? I mean, I've been struggling with. Anyway, I was about to go on another huge digression, but like veganism's good. Eating animals bad. Although I'm not going to stop.
Did you see Dot Cotton's obituary in the Times? I think it was.
Was she a dedicated carnivore?
Yeah, the mother of all gear changes. Hang on. It reads, June Brown, Dot Cotton actress in EastEnders, dies at 95. A very bright light has gone out at EastEnders today, but we shall be raising a sweet sherry in June's memory. As a child, there was nothing June Brown liked better than putting a rabbit in a biscuit tin, gassing it, and then cutting it up. Nowadays, people would scream in horror at the thought, she said, but we were not sentimental about field animals. I love dissection.
Oh, okay. Well, another Keri alike out there in the world.
That's probably what got Nick off on the wrong path.
Nasty Nick.
Yeah.
Nearly ended up in Dot Cotton's big tin. I remember when I was a kid, you'd see rabbit. We ate a lot of rabbit when I was a kid. You'd often see rabbits up in the butcher's windows with little buckets on their head to catch the blood.
It's commonplace here as well.
Is it? Oh, okay. You still have what, in Portugal?
Yeah. Get rabbit in Lidl.
I do think we've got more squeamish over here. The meat's kind of hidden a bit, isn't it? You don't tend to see quite so much of this sort of evisceration. Anyway, this is lovely, isn't it? So Vince is whitewashing his appearance to appear, more gentrified in front of the village. But what strange vehicle, Freddie? Because I went on a bit of a Freddie tirade. Was it last week or the week before? I can't remember.
Every week, isn't it?
It should be every week because he's such a bellend at the moment. There was one moment that summed it up. and I'm sure everyone knows it. It was the bit where he started kind of dropping the fact that his family owned a stately home to this new visitor to the hotel.
Who hadn't even noticed it.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed incongruous. Like he's never seemed that kind of arrogant, but it was more the thing I was picking up on was his total lack of kind of social grace. He just he doesn't seem to kind of dovetail with the world in any kind of useful way. It's always Freddie's way is best. And the other scene, of course, was when he was just kind of when Lizzie was sort of like, you know, chiding and prodding him to try and get his stupid egg thing in gear, and he was obviously completely oblivious yet again to the practicalities.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to be maturing as a character. All right, I mean, you can say the story arc going down for dealing wobbly eggs and then setting up your own DJ business, that is a bit of an upward curve. But he seems very naive about everything. I mean, naively optimistic, has to be said. And there was a point where he said, Mum's going to love it. And you just knew that in 1 or 2 episodes' time was going to be Lizzie going, this is all fucking awful, Freddie. What have you done? And that's exactly what happened. You know, she was lambasting him for lack of preparation. I don't know. He's what was the thing with Adil Shah not really realizing that, you know, oh, you work here, do you? And then she had to point out he wasn't the manager. No, when he works in the kitchen, like that's something awful. I didn't really understand all of that.
I assumed he was in a little kind of crushed velour bellhop's uniform with a kind of giant gold cage next to him. But obviously, it's not that kind of hotel.
No. And yeah, there was that bit where Tracy said, he'll help you with the bags. And he was like, oh, will I? I was like, well, you do work here, Freddie. You know, I mean, when you're not completely erroneously tarting up a room for no reason whatsoever, it's absolutely ludicrous that they would have gone in and put petals on the sideboard or whatever the hell they did and chocolates on the pillow.
Right. Well, according to you, they'd be too busy having sex in spare rooms.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the other thing. Don't get me started on that. The fact that nobody knows yet what's happened between Roy and Freddie not knowing what Tracy and Jazza did is literally unbelievable. The only thing that's testament to is the fact that Oliver can keep a secret, because in any other hotel that would be right round the hospitality staff straight away.
A restaurant is not a good place to have a secret life.
No, absolutely not.
So we were talking about Vince, then Freddie's a bellend, and then Adil turns up, this mysterious new character.
Yes, who is obviously buying Grey Gables, right?
It's it's a bit like when people tell you, oh, you've got to listen to this new album, and then like I've never seen Schindler's List, I think, because everyone told me it was so good. People have been so certain that Oliver's selling Grey Gables and so convinced that that's the case, that he's the prospective buyer, that I've been determined not to believe it. So sell it to me. Why do I have to buy into it?
Because Oliver seems distracted, and I got the impression Roy is in on it as well, because there was that moment. I think Roy let Tracy run with the idea that it was another woman, because at one point Tracy said, I'll ask Kathy. And Roy went, no, it's okay. I just messaged Kathy about whether it's another woman, and Kathy said it's not. And there was absolutely no way that he had time to do that. So I think Oliver's selling up. He's keeping it from the others. It's a Manchester City style takeover, I think, you know.
Very quick side note, Matthew. You do realise that only a few of us can actually tell when you do a West Country accent or try to do one. It just sounds like you're carrying on as normal, but yeah.
Did I actually go into Tracy's voice? Did I go into Tracy's voice there?
I thought you were trying to do a little bit of Roy or Tracy then.
I can't do Roy's accent. It's wholly bizarre. I can't even nail down what Roy. I mean, I know people who sound like that. Not in my immediate circle of friends, but I can't even get his the way he pronounces certain words. But yeah, if me doing Tracy just sounds like me, that's great. A friend from a long time ago who listened to the podcast recently told me that my Bristolian accent has come back in force, despite the fact that I haven't lived in Bristol for a long time. I blame the Archers.
I'm ashamed that my West Country accent isn't more to the fore. So it's nice to hear the sounds of home once a week through you.
Your loss of accent and your good deportment all as a result of being made to walk with loads of books on your head at school, isn't it, Peter?
I occasionally paint out a tooth so I can sort of, fit in more. So Roy is in on the act.
That was the impression I got, because the whole idea that he messaged Kathy seemed utterly vacuous otherwise. Why would it be in there?
Yeah.
There's no way he quickly texted Kathy to say, has Roy got a lady friend? I don't see that happening.
Maybe it is one of those situations where the obvious is the truth. So I didn't like Mr. Shah. I thought he was a bit of a prick. He seemed overly excited about quite banal details and sort of also like childishly naive. And I don't know if I'm irritated with the character or maybe the writing. I can't tell which.
I thought he was going to invite Tracy for dinner at Le Cerzereur's. Is that the name? I thought there might be kind of the it's in every soap opera, isn't it? That the rich dashing prince sweeps the chambermaid off her feet and takes her out for dinner, and it'll be to the loss of Jazzer. But I don't know.
I think Tracy's immune to such pretensions. I don't even think think her head would be turned by them. No matter how many ovens Mr. Shah could replace, I don't think she would, give up Jazzer for him.
No, let's hope not. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do with his character. I think I saw something involving him in Sunday's episode, so we'll see.
Yeah.
He's a
good-looking man, the actor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there'll be. I mean, not only maybe he's the Easter Bunny, because that's going to be revealed on Sunday.
That would be a surprise. I don't know why he now sounds like Alan Carr, but
to be honest, Peter, when you did that voice there, you didn't need to change accent.
I do have a very squeaky nasal voice, so that's cruel of you to say, but accurate. That's fine.
I had to get one in the bank there.
Every bumpkin's got to have their day, Matthew, and you had yours. That's
good. Big track. Okay.
Yeah. Look. Your and my childhood seem like we would make an interesting case study for any psychologist studying the British class system. Me with my accent and my family's kind of middle class pretensions, yet across town, Matthew driving apples around his palatial home in a big track. It's
in between getting beaten to Fleetwood Mac.
I thought, am I going to have to edit that out?
No, absolutely not. And the best thing is, my mum, in celebration of my arrival on the weekend, my mum has bought me a Fleetwood Mac T-shirt.
Did I ever when we were talking about parental beatings, did I tell you when my mum stopped hitting me? She never hit me very much, by the way. This is not some kind of tearful story. This is not like the Gallagher brothers talking about their dreadful childhood. But my mum stopped beating my sister when she broke her fancy hairbrush on my sister's bum. She was like, okay, well, that's that. Maybe that's a sign from the gods that I've got to stop. And with me, it was when she went to smack me with one of those rolled up kind of like rattan beach mats.
Okay.
Yeah. And I span her around, put her across my lap and gave her a hiding with it instead. And she was like, okay, yeah, that's that's a very, very clear sign that these days are over. But yeah.
I thought you were going to say that it was just on one specific occasion. Did I tell you when my mum stopped beating me, and it was going to be like when The Lion Sleeps Tonight came on the radio, and she's like, oh, I love this tune.
No. I mean, my mum was always she never, her heart was never in it. Like, never. It was. I think it was always more symbolic than. It's not like I'm not going to need therapy to get over the beatings.
Yeah. Different times, eh?
Happier times. I mean, although this is the thing. I look at my little boy now. I mean, yeah, this morning though, he ran into the road. Pardon my French. He ran into the road, and I screamed at him. That's like, it's like, oh my God, maybe a beating is necessary. Just, don't do that. Anyway, yeah. Come on, we can do an errant child segue here, Matthew.
Prohibition of chocolate for every child in Ambridge. Jack and Henry aren't allowed to have any. Chris won't let Martha consume any sugar. Natasha seems to be treated like a child now due to gestational diabetes.
I mean, the script writers meeting. So the story editor walks in and goes, "All right, everyone, sit down. Okay, right. We've had a chat and we think we really need to draw attention to diabetes and excessive sugar consumption in the UK. It's something that matters to everyone. Okay, ideas, please." And then this is what they've ended up with. I mean, do they run out of time? Do they run out of imagination? Uh, you know, Pat creating some kind of chocolate egg speakeasy on the edge of the cricket pitch and then getting caught out by Tracy. And then also the idea that Tracy was going to get super cross about it. That seemed odd. Anyway, the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to combine a healthy diet with your fitness regime. So the the allegation is that I mean the Gleason twins wouldn't be tucking in, who aren't obviously omnipresent in every single facet of Ambridge life now. They wouldn't be tucking into a Kinder Egg during cricket training.
Matthew, I would like to pour one out for our fallen sister. Keri, this one's for you. Yeah, geriatric cricket doesn't seem like it's that calorie consuming. So maybe Tracy's right.
And we were to assume that just became catching practice, wasn't it? And everything was absolutely fine because they were throwing an Easter egg around. Because Tracy was quite upbeat in last night's episode about how training had gone. Tony was there apparently, so it was from Tony to Clary to Pat, that catching practice. We didn't hear the Gleason twins.
Now,
once.
I've got to make a confession. I did actually laugh out loud during that scene.
Ah, did you?
Yeah, I think it was kind of like, you know, when you go to the cinema and you're just kind of like caught up on a wave of the kind of collective, emotion. And I think I just kind of like, I just got kind of carried away with it. I didn't kind of apply any critical faculties to it. I was just kind of like, oh, this is fun. And then started giggling. So,
It was very Sunday episode, wasn't it? That moment.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we talked before we started recording about how there was just a little bit of it was just a bizarre old week, wasn't it? Normally we can say, oh, it was a grueling week, or it was, we always have a little moan before we start.
Thank God for the Other Archers podcast so that people can actually hear people say nice things about,
Yeah,
about
true,
the Archers. Because if we were the only ones, my God.
Yeah, I mean, you won't hear anyone on this podcast talking who's been retweeted by UKIP.
So you were just giving yourself a permission slip to be negative there, I feel. So go on, get stuck in.
Oh, it was harmless fun, but I did feel re-listening to Wednesday's episode. I was like, I can just stop this episode halfway through, and there doesn't need to be any more analysis of it. I mean, you've got Josh and Vince with him. I mean, does Vince know that Josh was involved in like selling vehicles that were used in ram raids, and then he buggered off to Bali?
Wasn't that when Vince bumped into Josh on the road? Josh had broken down or something. And I think Josh kind of did a little mea culpa to Vince. I'm misremembering. I'm probably mashing together a whole. I mean, there's no way Vince doesn't know about it, right? The way that the Borsetshire agricultural scene is sold to us, it's a very tight community. They all go down the market. They all gossip over a bacon sandwich. Everyone knows everyone. I think it's reasonable to assume that Vince knows.
Yeah, everything gets around. I mean, Susan, despite not being a gossip, knew all about the fertilizer chat because she'd earwigged Pat and Ruth talking outside the shop enough to go to Chris to talk about it. But Chris is a little bit busy thinking about other things right now. Are you in any way more sympathetic to Chris this week than you were last week?
So I have got quite bored on Twitter recently of people trying to take sides between these two shites. They're both so stupid. Everyone seems to be trying to take a side. Is it Chris? Is it Alice? Who's wrong? Who's right? They're both. It's completely bananas. Miranda, who people will know from Twitter, had said basically, they've got loads of childcare in their laps. They have so much help available. They can share the custody. It seems like they're trying to find a problem to a solution. Sorry, a solution to a problem that's not there. It's absolute madness. And as someone who's a parent of a toddler, and our mums are amazing. They come and help when they can, but they live 3 hours away. So we have to do it all on our own, which is fine. It's what we bought into. But to have two mums on your doorstep who'll take the kids for days at a time. I mean, anyway, that's a very long-winded way of saying, no, I don't feel any sympathy for Chris, but I also don't feel any sympathy for Alice, except for the Ruairi thing, which we'll talk about later. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's also the only reason I take Alice's side more than Chris's is because at least, you know, Alice doesn't sound like she's going to need some kind of special care as well. Like, Martha needs care, Chris needs care.
Do you mean at no point has Alice gone, Mum,
Yes.
Mum?
Oh, Mum, I just got an email and it wasn't exactly what I wanted, so I've had a tailspin. I'm going to go for a walk round the village.
Also needs his food bringing up from the shop to the flat for him, and then later we hear Susan's making his tea, and jeez. But at the same time, he's like, "Well, I've decided if I just take Alice for half of her assets, then I can employ someone else at the forge to do what I do."
It has a backward step for feminism this last week with the Archers, with gender roles being held to far too, cliche gender roles being, prescribed and held to far too often. Like, Susan's the mum, she makes food for Neil and for Chris. You've then got, the solution to, and I know part of it's to do with money and to do with the custody battle, but like Alice is supposed to just give up her career, give up, her whole life, put her life on hold, because she wants custody of this kid. That seems like a backward step for me. I don't know. Am I overthinking it?
Is that something that's going to be said by a lawyer, a solicitor, though? That you should just stay at home and that's going to make for a more stable base when you're in a courtroom? I don't know. I find it a little...
It's immoral what the lawyer's done. You should, I'm sure you've done it, Matthew, with your, when with teaching, obviously there's a huge moral component. So let's ignore your teaching. Let's go back to your chefing, because, there are opportunities there. It's like, well, we could do that, but I can save you a lot of money by using this cut, or I can, all right, like there's stuff you do for your ego, and there's stuff you do to actually help the restaurant owner turn a profit and still keep the customers happy. And it's like, it feels to me like the lawyer is suggesting the course that's going to win the case and not the course that's going to leave people the happiest.
Are you saying that I shouldn't be secretly slipping my students the answers to the test so that my grades look good?
Yeah, that's why I wanted to dodge the teaching, because it's like it's a lot clearer, isn't it, with the teaching? But yeah, maybe you shouldn't have had those little scallops as special treats in between courses, Matthew. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I was a bit shocked when you told me that. I'll be honest. That was your little chef's treat, was to little fry off a little scallop left, here and there, pop them in your mouth.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. Working on cold larder or starters is the snacker's dream. You eat very well on that, probably because you don't eat at normal times. But yeah. So yeah, Alice I mean, even though Rory said that she leaves whiny voicemail, she's definitely the less whiny of the two. Chris just seems to go from catastrophe to catastrophe. He doesn't seem to be able to... How's he going to cope in a courtroom? He's going to totally lose it, isn't he?
The thing that you just made me realise is why I'm annoyed with Chris, which is, you were saying about he's so sort of whiny. He's entirely reactive. Like, regardless of whether Alice is right or wrong, forget about that. Forget about her alcoholism. Forget about why she's on this journey. She's got a clear vision of what she wants to do, and she's chasing that. I think she's making a mistake, but that's not the point. Chris is always kind of just... I mean, how's he going to be a good father when this is how it's like... Dad, I'm pregnant with a crack baby, and by the way, I'm moving in with my pimp. Oh, I guess I better start trying to teach you about confident male role models or something, And it's just, that was a very extreme example, wasn't
it? Well, that's in next week's episode.
That shows my lack of imagination. I could only go that far. I couldn't find anything between a baby and a crack mum.
Well, we need Amy to develop a crack habit in Nottingham first, don't we?
Yeah, then she becomes the gateway through which Martha develops her crippling crack addiction.
There was something to come out of Rory being slightly foul, was that he did manage to get Ian to say to Alice, yeah, maybe put your phone down for 5 minutes. Because this idea that a divorce A messy divorce is like a process that's happening in real time, and there are just armies of lawyers squirreling away, trying to each side over. Where in fact it's probably like a very slow, deliberative process. So Chris is running around going, "Mum, Mum," and Alice is like, "Oh my God, it's from my solicitor." That point where Rory said, like, "Well, can you read it later?" I know he was being a bit of a twat this week, but there was some method in his shittiness, I think, in all of that.
Yeah, just being being horrible or being a hypocrite doesn't mean you're wrong, does it? He can
No.
be an arsehole and right at the same time. I was wondering why is Alice sticking around and taking all this abuse from Rory? And I was really not enjoying that episode as well. I was getting quite irritated. And then she hit him right between the eyes at the end. And I sort of I have a sort of muscle memory of liking Rory a lot. I remember liking him a lot. I remember feeling affection towards him, and I also remember being pleased that there was going to be a slightly more nuanced LGBTQ character in the show. The gay characters up till now have been a little bit kind of one-dimensional, in my opinion. But yeah, I'm afraid that affection is disappearing quite rapidly. And when Alice sort of lasered him at the end, saying, no one else is spotting your bullshit, but I've got you figured out. That was enjoyable for me.
Yeah, what do we suppose is going on with Rory? I don't think he's attended more than a week of college while he's been in London.
I think he's done exactly what I did, but he's also found a way of making money. I went to university. I went to one seminar, 2 lectures, and that was me done.
What's the source of all his income then? Because the speculation is rife on the internet. What do we think it is?
People keep on saying rent boy or mail, something like that. But I think that is, sorry to be prudish, I think it's a bit offensive. I think it's slightly homophobic to assume that bisexual, that's where they would turn for money. I don't know. Maybe that's me being overly sensitive. The Archers is a silly show, and I often say more offensive things about it. But yeah, I imagine it's something like a mate of mine did, where he fell in with this crowd who did that thing where they basically prey on old people, calling them up and trying to scam them into giving away their savings.
Yeah, it's definitely nefarious, isn't it? The source of his income.
I think it'll be something where Rory will try and sell it as being okay, a bit like Rishi Sunak's wife. It's not illegal necessarily, but it's morally bankrupt.
Oh yeah. She's in the press a bit, isn't she?
Yeah.
Luckily, the Archers haven't had her on as a guest about 12 months ago, and now found out that she's involved in wrongdoing, as they did with Jackie Weaver, which everyone got very excited about. Delete that episode. She did not have the authority. I think Keri put it best. She said, "As I always suspected, the men in that group were twats, but she was also a twat."
Yes. If you're a dung beetle, you're going to get covered in shit. I'd say local council politics is, it's a dung beetle job. There's no, to give up your free time to. I don't know. Am I being unkind? I don't think I necessarily am.
No, you're not. You're not. And and if there are decent parish council members out there listening to this, then they won't be offended because they'll know exactly who we're talking about.
My analogy holds water because I'm not saying that a dung beetle is an amoral character. I'm just saying that the environment necessitates that you are going to end up covered in ordure.
No, just based on personal experience, parish councils in rural areas as well, particularly, tend to be full of little Hitlers.
Yeah, do you know what, Matthew? We have our own rural correspondent on our podcast, and it's you, right? The Archers needs some of this stuff for themselves to sort of like check, do a credibility check on this stuff. But yeah, I'm not sure what Rory's doing, but as I said, I think it's going to be something morally ambiguous. I don't think it'll be something that's clear cut illegal.
I reckon he's running like a dodgy bookies in Soho.
Right? Is there such a thing as a dodgy bookies?
Well, you could do illegal gambling. Yeah, when I visit my friend, when I lived in Dublin, I used to go up over the border and visit my friend in County Down, and horse racing is on the local pub down a country lane 24/7, and there'll be a guy in the corner of the pub taking bets, and you just give him the money and he pays back out. I was there on Cheltenham Gold Cup Day and I got the winner, and it took me about an hour for him to give me my winnings. He just did not want to pay out like 200 smackers. But it's yeah, it does happen.
My favourite thing with Irish sports was I used to drink in this pub in South London, and a lot. And the landlord would always have Irish sports on, and this would happen once every few weeks. You'd get like a Rory, Julian, and Toby would walk in, and they'd be like, "Look, can we get the England versus Italy, Five Nations on, please?" Or or Manchester United versus Chelsea or something. And he'd be like, basically tell them to go f themselves. And then the minute they were out the door, he'd be like, "Oh, I'd forgotten about that," and on it would go.
Yeah.
We'd all watch football, but yeah, there's no way he was going to turn off his hurling for some random. He wasn't even a local.
The very first All Ireland final in the Gaelic football that I watched was in Australia, and the same buddy of mine from County Down, I met him in Australia, and that's where we met. I mean, and he took me to a pub, an Irish pub, and we went upstairs into this little room at 3 a.m, where they were illegally showing the All Ireland final. I guess Down were in the final that year, and the Irish national anthem started to play, and everyone stood up. And just before it started, my friend turned around to me and went, "Don't talk." Like this idea that, it's just absolutely sacrilegious to speak during the national anthem playing. But yeah, once you live in Ireland and you really kind of get into that, you understand the passion behind it.
I've been trying to bring myself up to date with Irish history of late, and yeah, it's not that complicated. The lack of enthusiasm for English sporting teams once you do some reading around.
I think it's a massive failure of the educational system in England that nobody knows what Britain did to its nearest neighbour for 800 years. And then people go on holiday to Ireland and be like, "Why don't they like us?"
Well, that's a very light note to end the podcast on, Matthew. we're yeah. So that week, the Troubles. Next week, we will be talking about the brutal putting down of various insurrections and uprisings in colonial India. Happy days. Matthew, Keri's ill. People will want to reach out and wish her a speedy recovery. Where will they be doing that?
Well, they can get in touch with her on Twitter, at the Cider Shed Pod on Twitter, which you were helming yesterday, weren't you, Peter? Because
quite angrily.
Keri was having her opposable thumbs had failed her. And we are on Instagram, ever growing. At the Cider Shed Pod is also our moniker there. And we have a Facebook group called the Cider Shed Podcast, which is growing as well. People popping in and out. Liam was in touch to give Keri a bit of stick about her pronunciation of advantageous that she said last week, liking it to Nigella Lawson's pronunciation of microwave, which I am unfamiliar with. By the way, can you say visage in a Vince Casey accent?
Vince so visage.
Exactly. How they missed that as an 80s band that he would be into, I don't know.
Visage? No, that's more Australian. No, visage wouldn't it be? Because they're down on the vowels.
Yeah, it would be that. Yeah.
If you want to get in touch via email, it is hello@thecidershed.com. We'd love to hear from you. Please write us a review. We are going to be experimenting with adverts in the next few weeks, sometime this month. It's a year of doing the podcast. Everyone else seems to do adverts. So we'll be doing it. And then so give us some feedback about that, please, because we want to get it right. We want it to be enough adverts to sort of help make this worth our while in terms of pay some of the costs and stuff. But equally, we don't want it to be off-putting to you guys. So feedback on that will be gratefully received as and when we instigate them. That'll be happening in the next couple of weeks. So Matthew, it's been a lot of fun for me. Obviously, there's a massive Keri-shaped hole. I don't think we filled it, but we've done our best, right?
Yeah. I mean, we'll always do our best trying to fill a Keri-shaped hole.
Yeah. Anyway, look after yourself, Keri. Look after yourself, everyone else.
Okay, see everyone. Bye.
Hang on.